Today, I'm in conversation with Andrew Nyamayaro, the Director and Principal Solicitor for TANN Law Solicitors. You're watching the UK series brought to you in partnership with the Nyaradzo Group. I go beyond the headlines and beyond the sensational. If you enjoy this episode, please remember to subscribe, to like, and to share. Let's get down to some work. Greetings! Welcome to In Conversation with Trevor UK series brought to you by the Nyaradzo Group. I go beyond the headlines and beyond the sensational. If you enjoy this series, remember to subscribe, to like, and to share. Let's get down to some work. My brother Andrew Nyamayaro, welcome to In Conversation with Trevor.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my honor.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you. I'm really excited, genuinely excited to be talking to you because of the story that your life contains.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to start us at a place where you've come in the UK, thinking that the grass is greener than where you're coming from, and you find yourself working in warehouses, retail outlets, driving vans, and being a cleaner. Take to us to that place and what it meant.
So when I came to the United Kingdom, that was a long while ago in 2002, I came to join my wife, and my wife was here to study nursing at Coventry University. By that time, I was already a lawyer in Zimbabwe practicing, and I'd taken what is called a certificate of good standing to come and become a lawyer in the UK. So when I came, I just thought it's going to be an easy thing to convert. I'm a lawyer already practicing. I've done 4 years at a university. So when I come, it's just doing the exams and then just become a lawyer in the UK. Things didn't go that way. So when I came, because we had bills and we had to live, so I had to do some work because my wife was a student, just surviving on student income. So the first work that I did was to work in a warehouse. And it was a chill cold room where we were picking and packing food items that were going to one of the big retail outlets here in the UK. So I worked.
So this is a lawyer who's worked. How many years that you worked in Zimbabwe?
3 years.
3 years as a lawyer. You are a graduate. You've got a degree. You find yourself packing. What were you packing, by the way?
So my first job was in a warehouse where it was a chilled room, actually, a chilled warehouse where we were picking food like yogurts, ice creams, vegetables, picking them into cages and then pulling the cages towards the trucks and vans to be delivered to supermarkets. So that's the kind of work that I was doing then. So I did that, and it was agents' work. So you'll be taken to this warehouse, then a different warehouse, and different work. Eventually, I then started doing care work.
How long did you do the warehouse work?
So the warehouse work, I did it from 2002 to around 2003.
That's almost a year.
Almost a year, yes.
Talk to me about your state of mind. You know, you're qualified. You thought you were going to be a lawyer. You find yourself in this place because you've got to help your wife who's studying for nursing to make ends meet. I mean, what goes through your mind?
So it was quite a difficult moment for all the time that I was doing the various jobs which are not aligned with my training. Because, like I said, I thought it was just going to be a walk into the park to become a lawyer again, or at least if I was not going to be a lawyer, I would then do some junior jobs like being a paralegal or a caseworker or some kind of legal environment.
But none of that work was available for you.
I can tell you one thing, that when I came in 2002, back then we used to have what was called the Yellow Pages, a director of firms. I wrote a cover letter and sent a CV to every law firm in Coventry. I just got 2 replies, which were refusals. No one else
No one
replied to
bothered
me.
to respond
No
to
one
you.
bothered to reply to me. No one bothered to send me back my CVs, which I had printed in the public
We laugh. We
library.
can laugh now, isn't it?
Yeah, which I had printed in a public library for about 20p a page and so forth. So nothing worked at the time, but I was just being hopeful that things are going to work. And the exams that I was supposed to do were not cheap exams, because they were called qualified lawyers transfer tests at the time. Now they are called SQE. So at that time, I had to gather around £4,000 to do the exams. And when I came from Zimbabwe that time, I had, well, it was quite a few $1,000,000, but worth nothing in my Kingdom Bank account,
Yeah.
which then I couldn't really use. So I had, the only thing of value that I had were my certificates, and then I had to start again. So it was
And
a
then
difficult time.
driving. You also did driving and cleaning. Talk to me about that.
So cleaning, I thought, okay, I've always had a business mind in me. I take it from my mother. My mother was a very industrious woman, not very educated, but she was someone who very skilled naturally. So I thought, let me do cleaning as a franchise. So there was a company that I joined and bought a franchise from that cleaning company. And so I got all the cleaning equipments, but the contracts were difficult to get, and it was difficult to employ people at the time. So I had to do the cleaning myself. And sometimes without sufficient equipment, I had to be on my knees and hands scrubbing the floors myself and scrubbing the walls and the windows. So I did that cleaning as a franchise again for a few months, but it didn't work out as much as I thought that it would.
And driving.
Driving again, it was a self-employed business that I said, okay, let me get into delivery of parcels, courier work. So I got into courier work, and I would get onto my van. I had 2 vans. Oh, I started with 1 van, then I had another van which I had, and I was traveling from Coventry to Gloucester, which is a distance of about 1.5 hours, and 90 miles distance, where I was delivering the parcels. Because I was self-employed, I was paid per parcel. So the more you pick, the more you drop, the more money you get. So you would leave the house around 5 o'clock in the morning, come back around 10 o'clock, because you need to drop a lot of parcels. And so I was doing that courier work. And I then also did driving for a company that delivers newspapers from the warehouse to the supermarkets. I had, again, self-employed people that were working with me doing deliveries. So you could deliver, say, to Tesco or Sainsbury's or Asda, the newspapers. And
This is a
during
tough
the night.
This is
yeah.
a tough life. You didn't sign up for this when you left Zim. Were you tempted at any moment to say, no, this is too much, I need to go back?
At the time, I was very hopeful that let me take it. It's a temporary measure that is going to happen. So we are speaking between 2002 to
Yeah.
2004, and maybe a bit into
That's 2 years, Andrew.
Yes. And what I was hoping for, because I was raising the money for my fees as well. So I did write my exams, the qualified lawyers transfer tests, in end of 2003. Then I thought it was the end of the road. But one thing that I had done is I had kind of not taken it very seriously, the exams, because I was very confident that I'm a lawyer. I've done 4 years at
And then you
University of
failed.
Zimbabwe, and then I've done 3 years practice. So what can it's going to be a walk in the park. No, it wasn't a walk in the park. Yes, I did 4 heads of exams. I passed 1. I failed 3. Then I was down again. What's going to happen? Then I said to myself, okay, There's a lot of Afro-Caribbean people in Coventry, and there's not so many shops for Afro-Caribbean people in Coventry. So let me start a Afro-Caribbean shop. So 2004, with my wife, I started to order some things from Zimbabwe: wigs, um, ponytails, dark and lovely chemicals, and so forth. And then I, I then decided to look for local suppliers in the UK, which I did. So I had a shop that was operating in Coventry from 2004 until 2008, when there was a recession, and then we had to fold down. And so I operated that shop for almost 4 years. But again, when I started the shop, because when you start a business, it doesn't immediately start giving you any income. So I had to jewel up doing nights in a warehouse for some months, and then working in the shop. So I do 10 to 6 in the warehouse, and then come and sleep between 6 and 10, open the shop at 10, and then close the shop. And again, by that time, we had our son, so we had to do the school runs as well. So my wife is...
Talk to me about, I mean, that's 2 years of a very tough life. You've said two things. You were hopeful. Talk to me about that hope. And secondly, what kept you going? And how you failed the exams. What's your state of mind as you go through those things? This is an unusual life for a lawyer who's just come in qualified. Talk to me about that, your state of mind.
So when I did fail my exams, it hit me. I thought, wow, okay, maybe this is the end of the road. And my wife then also, it affected her because she could see that it's affecting me. And she then said, okay, you know what, there's always options, because when we came, I was not the only lawyer who came. There were other lawyers who had left Zimbabwe to come here. And some of them had gone into other trades. So some had trained to be nurses or social workers or doing some other different things. So she says, okay, train to be a nurse. I said, I don't want to do nursing. Train to be a radiographer. No, I don't want to do anything. Yes, I want to do law. So we came with the options. We didn't agree with the options. I was still hopeful to become a lawyer. So that's what kept me, that I need to become a lawyer in the UK. It's quite possible.
You were determined. You wanted to be a lawyer.
I was determined to become a lawyer.
When did you get the breakthrough as far as law is concerned? When did you get the breakthrough?
So when I was doing the shop, and I had some vans that were doing the newspaper deliveries. It's a funny story in this now, but not then. I was in the warehouse one day with the supervisor for the newspapers, and the guy came so hard on me. You didn't do these deliveries, these complaints, and so forth. Then I just said, no, I can't continue doing this. I don't think I have to continue doing this. I'm working here, then I will go and work into the shop, and then I just said, I quit. He didn't believe me. I said, I'm not going to come back, because the contract would say you have to serve some notice. I said, I'm not going to serve any notice, I'm quitting. I told my friends that were there. They said, okay, if you just quit now, and just remember you've got a wife and children, what are you going to do? I said, no, I'm going to stop this.
You had been pushed.
Yeah, I didn't push. So I stopped. I went to talk to my wife. Of course, she didn't really appreciate it. But it was something that was already there, because it means that she was going to work extra as well. She was already working extra anyway, because we had kids, we had a mortgage, and so forth.
What had this man done to you inside of you? Provoked you? Belittled you? Talk to me about that, because that's important.
So it belittled me, and I didn't feel treated fairly and rightly. And I just thought that, you know what, I am going to restart my exams again. I'm going to restart my studies again. So back then I had a van. It was a Ford Transit. I started to do house clearances. with the van instead of doing the newspapers. So I would be hired. If people are moving houses, then we'll be relocating people and so forth.
You're
So
trying to raise money to write your exams. So
yes.
you finally get the money?
So when I got the money, at the same time, I decided to do voluntary work because without any kind of legal background, it's very difficult. So I applied to be a magistrate. So I became a volunteer magistrate in Coventry. I was volunteering as a magistrate. And I also volunteered in one of the law firms that was in Coventry. I volunteered for 6 months. I always tell, particularly guys that are coming to the UK now, that you need to do voluntary work. It's powerful. You're not being paid, but once it goes on your CV, it's powerful. And that kind of helped me because when I started to say that I am a magistrate or I was a magistrate and I've done legal work, then it helped me. At the same time, when I'm driving my van, I'd taken time to read my books, recording them on the cassette. Back then, the van had cassette, the old cassettes. So I was reading my book on a cassette, and then when I'm driving, I'm listening to to myself, reading the book. So that's how that we are speaking now of around 2009. That's when I got back into the legal sector and as a volunteer, eventually as a paralegal, as a caseworker, and I then got registered as a solicitor in July 2012.
Wow, what a story. Did you go back to that man who irritated you and pushed you out? Because he did you a favor.
Unfortunately, though, the company went into liquidation and it was taken over by another company. And by that time, they had to do a lot of redundancies. So that gentleman, unfortunately, was part of the people that were made redundant.
I suppose what I'm trying to say, Andrew, is that so many times in life, we need to be pushed out of our comfort zones.
Yes.
It's because you're getting comfortable with this job and packing and so forth, and this man pushed you to a very uncomfortable place. That made you leave, and look at where you are. Do you agree?
Yes, I do agree. Sometimes when we become too comfortable, we tend to forget the main goal of our lives. And at that job, we were earning relatively good money because we were self-employed and so forth. So I was comfortable with the salary to such an extent that I had outsourced some of my duties to another person to do them on my behalf. So again, to be pushed out and then to go to almost nil income to rely upon my wife. And I'm really thankful that she was able to manage both of us.
Andrew, we're going to take a break here. When we come back, I want us to go to your law practice, which you have started and are doing very well. You're representing refugees, families, domestic abuse issues, and that kind of stuff. So at home, don't go away. When we come back, we're going to go to that place where a door opens for Andrew. So don't go away. See you on the other side.
Some of them have been tortured, have been, if it's women, they've been raped and they've been sexually abused.
Welcome back to our conversation with Andrew Nyamayaro. You are watching the UK series brought to you in partnership with the Nyaradzo Group. So Andrew, you were educated at the University of Zimbabwe. That's where you got your law degree. And then you come here, you eventually register to become a solicitor for England and Wales. Just talk to me briefly about the registration process when you then get your qualification to practice in the UK.
Okay, so I became eligible to become a solicitor in 2012 when I had done, because the requirement under the qualified lawyers transfer test was for me to do the exams and to do some practical experience. And I'd done the practical experience as a paralegal and as a caseworker, including the voluntary work, which I had mentioned before. So I then made my application to the Solicitors Regulatory Authority, which is the body that regulates all the solicitors in the UK. And I was approved. And then I went to Chancellor Lane in London to do the ceremony to be admitted as a solicitor in the
How
UK.
did that feel?
Oh, I felt so good. When I walked upon the podium, I was waving to everyone. In this country, the English people are very reserved when they are doing things.
Yes.
But for me, it was like, in Africa, in Zimbabwe, we do it this way. And I was all over the place, and everyone had a laugh and they
And
enjoyed it.
with all good reason, because you've fought to get here.
Yes. It was a very wonderful moment for me and my family.
What was the next thing then? You to open up TANN Law Solicitors? How did you do that, and what was the thinking? Was it easy?
So 2012, that's when I became a solicitor. I then started to work for other firms. So between 2012 and 2016, I was working in a city nearby Coventry called Birmingham. It's about 30 minutes from Coventry. So I was commuting, either I drive or I use the train to go to Birmingham. I enjoyed the jobs. I worked for 3 firms there. One of the firms that I work for is one of the largest firms in the UK. So I just said, I just need to start my own project. I've got acquired all the experience that I need, and I've got exposure to as many lawyers or lawyers in practice, and I've got also exposure to clients over the years. So 2016, I made an application to the Solicitors Regulatory Authority for registration as a firm. And in August, I think it was August or September, they approved our application to be registered as a solicitor. I was by myself when I started. I was just me, myself, and I.
How big is the law firm now?
So the law firm now, we are around 10 staff. At one
10
time,
professionals?
Yes, 10 professionals. At some point, we were around 23 people. And again, some of the things you learn as you go. When we became a large firm with about 23 people, in hindsight, I think, I'm still ambitious, but I think my ambition had overtaken the real vision, and we became too big too fast. And then we sat down and reviewed and said we need to develop our business in accordance with the policies and the procedures so that we become effective. So at the moment, we boast about 10 or so staff that we have. And we operate, our main hub is in Coventry, but we have got virtual firms that we have around the county. So we have got about 3 virtual offices that we have, and 1 brick and mortar office that we have in Coventry.
Talk to me about the cases that you tend to handle. Like I said, you deal with human trafficking issues. You deal with human rights issues. What tends to be the work that comes towards you?
So when I started the business, we were concentrating on immigration as the main area of law. Now we do about 5 or 6 areas of law. We do immigration, family, employment, business advice, we draft wills, and we do probate. Probate is known in Zimbabwe as succession. So I've done all those kind of work. But coming back to your question, under immigration, I've dealt with so many different types of cases, people that have fled their home countries because of persecution one way or the other, people that are victims of domestic violence, people that are fleeing because of humanitarian issues and so forth. So I have dealt with a lot of cases in that regard, a lot of nationalities, a lot of people that have gone through a lot of trauma and problems in their
Any
lives.
particular case of trauma that you've had a case, I mean, without naming names, obviously, as a lawyer, you want to protect your clients. Any case that stands out is particularly gruesome, particularly tough, that you've had to deal with, either human trafficking or human rights immigration cases?
So there's quite a lot of those cases, and some of them from a political point of view, some of them have been tortured, have been, if it's women, they've been raped and they've been sexually abused. Some of them have had women, children taken away from them. I've had cases whereby people were burned or were done so much gruesome things onto their bodies when you see the
In
scars
the UK, or they're coming from overseas?
coming from overseas. Cases that I've dealt in the UK, some of them would, if it's cases to do with partners, family cases, people do have domestic violence issues.
I gather there's a lot of that.
Yes, there's a lot of domestic violence that happens, either within the immigrant community or the local community. And it is quite sad that people can do so nasty things to each other. So I have dealt with so many cases. When I received an email from your team to say, tell us about the books that you have read, I just said to myself, every case that I deal with is a book.
It's a book.
It's an experience it's a live book of the experiences that people have had. So that's on the kind of traumatic cases. But I've also dealt with cases of people that have been successful in their own rights, or people have made it one way or the other.
Commercial law?
Commercial
You do
law,
that?
yes, people that have registered their businesses, operating their businesses, and people that
Because you take commercial cases from registration of companies throughout the whole process, yeah?
yes, we will do all those kind of cases. So we help them setting up, running their business, review their documents, attending meetings with them, dealing with all the regulation, because there's a lot of regulation either from the HMRC, which is the tax department in this country, or the employment, the tribunal cases, the home office. I think you'll be aware of the COS and things like that. So we do all that kind of work for people that have set up their own businesses. People getting married, we advise them when they are getting married.
Beautiful cases.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah. And the asylum seekers we've already spoken about. I mean, there's the Refugee Convention and the European Convention on Human Rights. Is there a case where one of your clients has been denied and you felt heartbroken? Is there one that you can remember?
Well, I can tell you one of the latest ones, which we just thought that we had nailed it with the client, but the Home Office said no. This gentleman was a victim of political persecution in his country, and when he fled over here, he came and he was staying in this country, and because of the persecution that he suffered, he also has serious medical problems, and you can't necessarily access good treatment because of that. Because when you are a refugee or an asylum seeker, unless if you receive what is called NAS, NASS, you cannot access some of these facilities in the UK. So you can't rent, you can't drive, you can't open a bank account, and you can't access the NHS. But for him, he has suffered the persecution, he has got the medical problems, he has got PTSD, the trauma that he suffered from, and it's now affecting him, his relationship with his partner or wife, because as things stand, the wife is the one who is working and is not working, and this case was refused by the Home Office. So we get 14 days to do an appeal. So at the moment, my team is in the process of working on an appeal, and hopefully
we hope that that goes well. Let's go to another milestone. You are the immediate past president of the Warwick Law Society, and you've been a council member of the Law Society of England and Wales. from driving trucks and packing fruits and vegetables. Here you are. I mean, what an amazing story.
Thank you so much.
What does that feel like?
Oh, I feel so much humbled and honored. When I became the president of the Warwick Law Society, I was the first black president of the Warwick Law
Wow.
Society. And
Well done.
I was the president for 2 years. And I was also a council member for the National Law Society for almost a year or so until my term ended. And it was, I felt good about it because I was representing an ethnic minority of black people in the UK, because by statistics, we don't have so many solicitors that come from our background as black people. And by statistics, again, when we come to regulation, and this is on record, that we suffer more prejudice from the regulator compared to the Caucasian colleagues. So for me to have been accepted and received by my colleagues in my constituents to become their president, it wasn't easy as well, because, it's not...
Talk to me about that. It wasn't easy. Why was it not easy?
Because, you're coming as an outsider. So the legal sector is a closed community. It's very difficult to break through. That's why I told you that some of my colleagues ended up retraining to become social workers or nurses or doing some other thing, because it's very difficult. I would say maybe out of the people that came from Zimbabwe as lawyers or in the legal sector, maybe 10% have remained as solicitors here in the UK. The majority have either retrained or just gave up and just started doing elsewhere or gone back home.
Because you're not getting the work. You're not accepted. Is that the sense?
And the exams themselves, I believe, in my honest heart, that they are discriminatory. They are done in such a way that to pass them is quite difficult. So they are set in such a way to close you out.
Wow.
So for you to be able to pass the exams and then the extra leg of doing.
Why do you say they are set in a way to close you out? I mean, you're all studying as lawyers wanting to go in. What makes them exclusionary?
So with the QLTTS that I was doing, that was the position. Then they said they are going to open to liberalize the practice to everyone. Then they changed to SQE. But even as we talk now, if you look online, you will see that there is, because when they put to SQE, they were saying they want to encourage more people from ethnic backgrounds to be able to go into the practice. It's not happening because the failure rate of people that are not white, the non-whites, is higher than the failure rates of white people.
And you think it's because of the way the exam is set?
The way the exam is set and the way that things operate. If you are from within the UK, you've got your grandmother, your father in the UK, and compared to me, who is the first immigrant, my children, maybe they're second generation, the exams are very expensive.
I see.
So for me, I have to be working and studying when someone is just studying because they've got support. Yeah, that's the correct word, support.
Tell me, so as president of the Law Society and as a council member, did you make any efforts to push for the changes that you're talking about at all? Was that possible?
Yes, it's possible. We are still doing that. I'm still a committee member in the Warwick Law Society. I'm the press and public officer for them. So we still push about equality, diversity, and non-discrimination in the legal sector. We still do that.
Wow, you are doing amazing work. You're making us proud. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, I want us to go to that place where to ask you, you were born you grew up in Seke, in Chutukwiza, and here you are at the pinnacle of the law discipline in the UK. So we just want to find what it is that made you who you are. At home, don't go away. Join us on the other side.
As long as our mindset is not shifted we will continue
Yeah.
in what we are at the moment, even getting worse.
To our UK series brought to you in partnership with the Nyaradzo Group. Today I'm talking to Andrew Nyamayaro, the Director and Principal Solicitor for TANN Law Society, solicitors rather. Why TANN Law? That's rather an unusual name.
Oh yes, people get asking me that question.
TANN, yeah.
TANN. So I referred you in this conversation when I started the business of an Afro-Caribbean shop, which I had in 2004. It was called TANN Enterprise then. So I just sat down and thought, okay, so let me just use the initials of my family. So my son is called Tinashe, so that's the
All
T.
right, okay.
It's Tinashe Andrew, so is the T. I'm Andrew, which is the A, and my wife is called Nyaradzo, and the other N is
I
Nyamayaro.
get you.
So that's where TAN came from. But 2006, we were blessed with a daughter. So somewhere she had to fit in the TAN.
Yeah.
So your name is Natish.
Natish. All right. So she's represented. Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, what does Natish mean?
Yeah. So Natish, we Tinashe. So Natish is Tinashe
Reverse.
but without the E. So that's Natish.
That's beautiful.
So TAN is the family. So maybe when you grow big and we get investors like yourself, Trevor, you might come in with a T.
Well, watch this space. Who knows, you know? So you were born, like I said, you grew up in Seke, Chitungwiza. You went to primary school there. Talk to me about, you've already indicated that your mom was very influential. Talk to me about the schools that you went to, grade 1, Form 1, and Form 6 and that kind of stuff. We know you went to the University of Zimbabwe.
So I grew up in Seke Chitungwiza. The primary school that I went to is called Seke 2 Primary School, also known as Chinembiri Primary School. It was just maybe about 200 meters away from where we're living in Unit A. It was a government primary school, and that's where I did my grade 1 to grade 7. Then when I finished my grade 7, I went to a boarding school in Harava district. Well, the common place is Dema. It's Dema in Seke as well. So at Mandedza High School, I did Form 1 to Form 4. And then I then went to Wildlife Institute, which is in Marondera, where I did my A levels, Form 5 and Form 6, and then from there I then went to the university.
Would you believe it? I mean, you know, you might not believe this. Wildlife has a tremendous reputation. It's produced people like you. But I was talking 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago to a Wildlife, former Wildlife student, young man, who's now at the University of Zimbabwe doing 3rd or 4th year. And he says to me, unfortunately, I can't speak English properly because we were not taught English. Because I asked him, are you having problems speaking English? Are you aware that this is what's happened to Wildlife?
Oh, that's quite a pathetic situation. If children can't speak or people can't speak English from such, because when we went to Wildlife and the years before, it was quite an institute of high integrity and prestige, and everything there was just high prestige, from the teachers, the environment, the equipment that we used, and it was very good. It is quite sad that things could have got to such an extent that someone is now struggling to speak English.
That's the state of our education, which is pretty worrying. What goes through your mind? You're living this life, comfortable life that you deserve, that you've earned, but your country is not doing so well. Zimbabwe is not doing so well. What goes through your mind? When was the last time you went visiting?
The last time I went visiting was just pre-COVID, 2019.
2019.
Yes, and
When you hear what's happening there, how people are struggling and so forth, what goes through your mind?
it's something that affects me seriously. I still have family that is in Zimbabwe, both on my wife's side and on my side. And in general, when we hear that the economy is not performing well, the medical situation is not very good, people are not working, it's something that makes us sad. We have done our bit in trying to do some charity work to assist people that we know and to assist people that have got problems that we might assist as much as possible. But I was of the view that by now we should be in a better position, being Zimbabwe with all the natural resources that we have, with all the education that was there before, when everyone was educated to such a high caliber. But it's just sad that things are
It
at
is
this
said,
level.
it is said, Andrew, maybe the last point here, but just to hammer the point that things are tough at home. So we now have lawyers, Andrew, who take bribes. We have lawyers who steal clients' money. That's how bad things have become. Would you at any time be tempted to say, let me pack my bags and go home and fix the problems that my country is in? Would that be a temptation, and what would make you do that?
I'm always in contact and communication with the Law Society of Zimbabwe. In fact, in October, I'm planning to go there and attend the president dinner, charity dinner.
That's good.
So I communicate with them. I have communicated with them with an intention of, if possible, to get a branch in Zimbabwe. As you would know, the law in Zimbabwe is a bit strict. It's still, in my view, it's 20 years behind, because the Law Society, the Legal Practitioners Act is, in my view, archaic. It forbids things that now natural in this day and age. For example, the lawyers in Zimbabwe cannot market their profession.
They can't advertise.
They can't
They can't
advertise.
promote
They can't
themselves.
promote themselves in this day and age, and then they face competition from rogue, unregistered people who come in and do things illegally because they can't advertise themselves and so forth. And I can't open a firm in Zimbabwe, even though I'm registered, but I'm still registered in Zimbabwe, but I can't open a firm and operate there.
Why?
That's what the law says. I can't be a partner necessarily.
Is there a sense that there's an old boys club, all girls and old boys club, who are closing the practice to some of you guys coming in and shaking up things?
I feel like that is the position, that you can, if I can be able to come and invest in Zimbabwe through a law firm, I think that is something that is good. But because of the Legal Practitioners Act, or maybe the cliques that exist already within the solicitors or lawyers in Zimbabwe, then no one seems to have this appetite to open up the market. Like if India has done it, which is a big market, I can go and open a firm in India and operate there. I can go and join a firm in Rwanda and operate there. I can't necessarily do it in Zimbabwe. At one point, when I was using a colleague's firm to do my work there without necessarily doing legal work for Zimbabweans in Zimbabweans, I was written by the Law Society to be rebuked and to explain.
And they also make it difficult for students who have practiced law, who are coming back to Zimbabwe. They have to go through a lot of processes. So I'm glad you are engaged with them to try and change things. I think for me, Andrew, it's important for us to say there's a lot of things that are wrong about Zimbabwe. But the thing that's wrong about Zimbabwe is us.
The people.
It's our mindset.
Yeah.
It's the lawyers, it's the bankers, it's the journalists, it's the whole society. We need healing for us to come out of the mess that we are in. Do you get that sense, or I'm telling you something brand new?
No, I agree with you. 100%, because as long as our mindset is not shifted, we will continue
Yeah.
in what we are at the moment, even getting worse. I've spoken to you about people that have relocated to the UK on the skilled worker visa. Some of them have never worked all of their lives, and when they come here, it's the first time they are seeing a pay slip. It's the first time that they are attending a meeting in a company, and they don't know any work ethics as well because they've never been exposed. And
We used to be proud of our work ethic as a people, but at the moment, I think it's important that we own up and say our society is broken. We need to fix it. You do a bit of agriculture. You love walking. You have a number of hobbies. Talk to me about the way. I mean, you work in a tense environment. How do you relax?
yes, the environment that I work in is quite tense, and it's can be stressful at
Yeah.
sometimes. So I need time to be off the
Unwind.
weekend and unwind and so forth. So, and it's fortunate that we do like the same hobbies with my wife. So we like a lot of traveling. So we are doing we do a lot of holidaying. We go different places in the UK, in Europe, or different places, and we do hiking, and we love nature. So we go to natural reserves, and there's a lot of places here in the UK where you can go into mountains, into forests.
And you like gardening too.
And
You
yes,
do a bit of gardening.
I love
What
gardening.
do you grow in your garden?
Oh yeah, in my garden now.
And I can see you're smiling. It brings joy to you.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
I do a lot of allotment. We've got an allotment which is quite big, so to say. So at the moment, as we speak, we have got mbora, mananga. We are starting to eat our manangas now.
Oh, that's
we have
beautiful.
got corn, maize. We have got tsonga, rugare. We have got potatoes, so we're just eating our own potatoes. And mapudzi are starting to do, they were sprouting now. So
That's
we've
beautiful.
got, we just took a lot of things from back home that we grow in our allotment, a lot of spinach, kale, and so forth.
I love broccoli. I ordered broccoli in the hotel where I'm staying, and it cost me £5. I called my wife and said, next time I eat broccoli at home, I remember it costs £5. So just as well you're growing your own food, eh? Must be a good saving.
It is very good. It's apart from doing the bit of exercise and unwinding from work and being feeling close to nature, you are eating organic food for almost nothing, because organic food in this country is
It's expensive.
Yeah.
Your wife, Nyaradzo, my wife is also Nyaradzo. Your wife, Nyaradzo, is now working with you, having started off as a nurse. Talk to me about the beauty of working with your wife.
Yes, so she worked as a nurse for 17 years with the NHS, starting in the ward, and then she ended up being a research nurse. And then she came to join the firm in 2018 as a part-time employee, but now she is the manager. So the beauty of working together is you have to have boundaries.
That sounds like the challenge of working together.
And we managed our boundaries so
Yeah.
well. When we are home, we are doing things that we need to do at home. When we are in the workplace, I give her the respect. She gives me the respect. We have got our things that we need to do according to whatever job descriptions that we have. So it has been wonderful working together, and we have since we've been working together, just for this year alone, we have increased our turnover by 20%. So 2023 to 2024, our turnover is up by 20%.
Wow.
Our profit margin is up by more than 30%. And we have been able to implement a lot of policies, systems. One of the books that you see there is about automation. In the law firm, we've put a lot of automation software that we work with in the firm. So I think we are going the right direction.
That's beautiful. Talk to me about Tinashe and Natisha. Tinashe has just recently passed his law degree, so he's following after dad.
Yes.
Talk to me about what that does to you.
Well, I'm very proud of the young man that he has taken law, and he is now a lawyer by by qualification. He's in the process of, well, eventually we want him to be in the firm, but we want him again to have experience elsewhere, which is something that he wants to do. So he's got a few interviews lined up for him
He
to
doesn't
get.
have to struggle like you struggled.
No, he doesn't have to struggle. Yeah, we always his fallback plan if he wants to come back into the law firm.
Which you never had.
Which I never had. So he is well placed in terms of that, and we were fortunate enough that we were able to send them to a good school, one of the two best schools in Coventry. So they've had very good education, which have placed them better in this community.
Natish is taking a gap year.
Natisha, she finished her A-levels. She's taking a gap year, so she will be mostly in Europe for the next 12 months, and then she'll come back and go to university.
Talk to me about your faith. What's the meaning of God in your life?
My faith is very important to me. I became a Christian by choice in 1993. Before that, my mom will always be pushing us to go to
Let's go to church.
Yeah, go to church. This
Sunday school.
Sunday school, and so forth. Yeah, but 1993, I just made a decision to become a Christian, and I've been a Christian ever since. I'm motivated by my faith. I live my faith. I believe in my faith, and it gets me going every day. Even when I am in difficult situations and environments, I know that through faith, I can be able to make it. I've seen very difficult and impossible situations become very possible.
We're going to turn to books now, and I'm going to ask you, Andrew. You've already brought you brought two books for us. Our viewers all over the world love books, and this is one of their favorite sections of the show. We have, by the way, created a WhatsApp group for the Trevor Book Club, which is growing quite nicely. What three books are you recommending to our book-loving viewers?
So, one book, which obviously, because of my faith, you would know, obviously, the Jews.
I suspect which it is.
That's why I didn't bring it here, because I know you.
Yeah.
You would have it somewhere in your library.
Right.
It's the Bible. The Bible, as much as it is stories or an ancient recording of events, it is a spiritual book. And I tend to read the Bible as much as I can, if I can, every day. Recite scriptures to myself as I pray and meditate. So the Bible, I recommend it to everyone. It's something that guides me in my life, and it's something that guides my wife and my children.
Same here. This morning, before I started getting ready, my book was Jeremiah 29:11. I know the plans that I have for you, says the Lord.
Amen.
Right. What other two books are you going to recommend
for
for us?
The other books that I have is I've got this book for my colleagues in the industry, even my colleagues that in Zimbabwe that cannot openly market their trades. It's called The Secrets of Marketing and Automation
In law.
Practice in Law. And I think, when I became a lawyer, or when we were trained in University of Zimbabwe, marketing, and we were trained to be lawyers. We're not trained to be business people. Those are two different things. So you can be a good lawyer, but you cannot be a good business person.
But this book gives you the secrets to marketing, and automating your law practice,
and becoming a good business person. And so that's why maybe we've experienced this growth in our business. In 2018, we managed to acquire another firm to become part of TANN Law. So, and we have had a good growth because I've been able to become a business person more than a lawyer. So it's quite important how to market, how to automate. We're now in an environment where AI is taking over, and we've got a lot of
AI can make our lives better. Yeah. Well, I
Yes.
hope one Dara Blessed Mtlanga is watching, because he's studying law and he needs to realize that he needs to automate and market. What's the next book?
So the next book is called Leadership is Language. And again, as leaders in the community and in the society, language is important. So the way, as much as we've got language, that's leadership in itself. The soldiers have got their own language. You journalists have got your language. Lawyers have got our own language. But sometimes we need to use the language as leadership. As we lead. Some people will use their language in a dictatorial way. Some would use the language in a laissez-faire approach. So the language is what determines our leadership. So it's quite important to
Beautiful.
So for example,
Leadership is Language, and it's written by L. David McQuire. Am I pronouncing it right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Right. Author of Turn the Ship Around. Beautiful books. You're going to say something, Andrew, before?
Yes, I was just going to say, in terms of language, you can say maybe to your subordinate, operate this camera. You're going to give me a command.
Yeah.
But you can say, you can say something that is not a command to the subordinate. It's better accepted if it's not a command.
Yeah.
And you can work together, because so that's how we approach leadership, in such a way that you are able to engage your subordinates without necessarily aligning them away from you.
Fantastic. Andrew, I've enjoyed this thoroughly. I have no doubt that it's going to motivate a lot of people out there. It's going to challenge the lawyers. I'm sure they're going to be writing letters to me and taking us to task for the things you've said, but we stand by what we said, eh? You and I?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Andrew, thank you so much. Allow me now to turn to our viewers who are all over the world to say thank you so much for the support. Remember, we are a weekly show. We are out on YouTube every Monday, 7 a.m. Central African Time. And to ensure that you don't miss out on any of these quality conversations, such as one I've had with my brother Andrew here, please remember to subscribe, to like, and share. When and if you subscribe, you'll get a notification every time we have a new episode for your listening pleasure. We've gone a step further and created a website where all our content sits. We've got podcasts on Spotify and other platforms. So go there and binge. We love your comments, by the way. Let's see what you think about what Andrew and I were discussing. Let's have the comments below and see what you say. We love reading those comments. Until next time, cheers to you all.